So my name is Xolani Shezi. I will be the one hosting and directing the conversation today. Primarily, we'll be focused on our superstar Khanyisa, and also as a key leader of the emerging arts coming out of the Blessing Ngobane Art Prize. We then also have Palesa here, who is the lead curator and also a veteran, I would say, of the art industry here in South Africa. I represent Africa Collect.
Africa Collect is transforming the art market in South Africa by making it easier than ever to own the art you love. With a seamless buy now, pay later solution, collectors can acquire stunning pieces from their favorite artists, spreading the payments over time. Our platform isn't just about transactions, it's also about building community, fostering deeper connections between artists and collectors, and empowering more people to engage with culture and creativity in meaningful ways.
We have multiple partners, and most recently were the key partner for the Latitudes RMB Art Fair, in which you can essentially select any artwork in the country, go on our website, and essentially just add and select which artwork that you would like. We have a calculator that will basically give you either a 6 or 12-month payment scheme based on your credit rating. Then you will, basically receive your artwork immediately and be put onto a payment plan that we will monitor with you. Now, getting into the discussion at hand, I would like to introduce the BNAP organization, which of course was founded by Blessings Ngobane, who is a prolific, abstract, surreal, and also Dadaist artist within South Africa. Now, interestingly enough, I myself learned most of my art history studying at Sotheby's in London, and I can tell you now that when covering South African artists, it was very rare to actually gain insight into other artists that covered things beyond things such as sculpture and also photography and impressionism. And so Blessings, fitting in the art market really does correlate and coexist with other great legends in the industry, such as your William Kentridges, who really defined the foundation at hand that gives opportunity for new artists such as Khanyisa to emerge and lead the new art wave of contemporary art within the primary art market. And now introducing the other great speaker at hand, who is Palesa. Palesa really comes from quite an experienced background, beginning her days as a gallery manager at the Gavin Projects, and then becoming a gallery assistant at Everard Reed. She really now has defined her place as not only a tastemaker, but also as a curator with a multifaceted eye that spreads across industries such as design, media, and now, of course, fine arts. At the Grand Art Society, she really was a leader in defining various languages and also collaborating various compositions of creativity that allow her to provide opportunities for people such as Khanyisa, who incorporate a diversity of religion, multimedia, and of course, canvas works. Now, before we step into the actual panel discussion, I would like to give the floor to Palesa to essentially just give a brief introduction into BNAP and also her selection of Khanyisa as an artist. Up to you, please, Palesa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Xolani. I hope everyone can hear me. So like I was saying, thank you so much to Africa Collect for inviting the BNAP organization to just talk to them more about Khanyisa Agnes Broncon, as well as what our organization does. As mentioned, the organization was started by Blessing Gobeni, alongside fellow artist Teresa Kutala Firmino and Oluwatu DeFoss in 2016. We are currently in our 9th year running. We are an NPO that services young artists and offers a residency program for African artists mainly, and also an art prize. And part of our art prize is that the winning artist gets to have a solo exhibition each year at Everard Reed. So like I said, we're in our 9th year, and this year's winner is none other than Khanyisa Agnes Broncon. We are very excited to be working with her. We are very excited to see what she develops throughout her residency. She's currently in her 2nd month of residence with us, and her studio is currently based at Ellis House Art Building in the city. And yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing how she develops her art practice through this 3 months. It's quite an intense program, but with the support of our sponsors like the PSE, Everard Reed, and Art Angels, we've managed to grow what was once an artist-led organization into one of the biggest NPOs that service artists in Africa. So we are very, very excited for Khanyisa and the work that we do.
So thank you so much, Palesa. Before we dive into what I hope is quite a diverse address of both fine art from the artist's perspective, which Khanyisa will hopefully provide those online for that, and then also the broader agency in which we will look at the curatorship and also the journey of curators, which I'm hoping Palesa will also provide insights into. Khanyisa, are you here? Is everything okay with your audio?
Everybody, Khanyisa has been struck by a little bit of load shedding. So she is online, although I think she is struggling a little bit with her network. Let's see if we can get her back. And maybe in the interim, we could ask Palesa to speak on Khanyisa's work.
Of course, I have plenty of questions for Palesa. So I think really, Palesa, perhaps starting then with the journey of not only curatorship, but also what it takes to go from an interest of art outside the perspective of being an artist and how one commercializes their career and engagement. And so the first question is, when I did my research and particularly looking at the Gavin projects where you started off as a gallery manager and then of course a gallery assistant, Everard Reed, there's a huge, almost a management consultancy element of a client-facing role within the art industry. Now, really looking at your role then, what would you say were the first 3 to 5 years of what one needed to do in order to really absorb as much as possible to commercialize, your role as a curator in the country?
I think what I can say is that when I started out at the Gavin project, I was really new to art and I was thrown into this role, which I felt was so much bigger than what I was capable of, and luckily I had a CEO like Mr. Gavin who taught me everything that I know about art. When I started out, African art was just taking off. The Maboneng precinct was a really big place to be around in order to access art during that time. And I felt that as much as I'm in this managerial role and it's very administrative, and I get to interact with clients on a one-on-one basis, I still need a lot of structure and a lot to learn. Hence, I then transitioned from gallery manager to gallery assistant in a bigger organization that has been working in the art industry for a much longer period than the Gavin Project was at the time, you know. And by going to Everard Reed, I fully got to understand what curatorship is. It's more than just, you know, hanging artworks on the wall. It's about your full and thorough understanding of an artist's visual language and conceptual framework, as well as how to package the artist and get them ready for, I guess, the sales and the marketplace, rather, in the industry. And my time there was very much spent moving between those roles, where I'm either liaising with clients or liaising with artists and getting a thorough understanding of why they do what they do and how I can assist as a sales assistant to make sure that their work sells. So the storytelling element of, I guess, the work of a curator is very important to me. And yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question or if I'm going on, but it's very important to me because it's exactly what led me to take up this role here at BNAP Foundation. I'm very much interested in telling artist stories, and I think from a Black curator's perspective, there's a certain element of understanding language and cultural nuances that I bring to the white cube or exhibition spaces that really makes me, I guess, different, to say the least. Yeah.
I think, Palesa, you've perfectly, expressed what I was hoping, everybody could kind of learn on the basis point of being a curator, which is the sales perspective of being client-facing and closely connecting that to the storytelling within the commercial umbrella of looking at, institutional engagement. And, before I ask the second question, which will lead to hopefully now Khanyisa being online, I wanted to ask, that I come from technology. That's my basis point. And I really began my career from a customer success management perspective, which then grew me into being where I am today. And so if I had to ask you what motivates you when looking at your participation in BNAP selection of artists, as you said, the residency is a very rigorous process. I'm sure its selection process is also hectic, but you're also taking a very big risk because, you're also kind of like these 12 weeks at Everard Reed, you want your vision to not be lost within the artist's journey. So what really motivates you, to one, continue doing this work, and why have you done it through a foundation versus what I'm very sure could have been a commercial, alternative?
Xolani, I think that from a commercial perspective, there's a bit of red tape as far as accessing artists and engaging with artists on a regular basis, because the business side of things requires you to be in the office, in the gallery, a lot more than you are in the studio with the artist, developing the work and understanding the concepts and even guiding the artist in a new direction that they weren't previously exposed to. Whereas here at the BNAP Foundation, we have such close contact with Khanyisa, even throughout our process. So I'll just tell you a little bit about that before I get into this answer. The selection process involves us going through over 300 applications, and from that then we filter out the best applications to form a group of finalists who then go on to have a group show at the JSE. And from that exhibition, we select our overall winner. So through that process, we get to understand how much the artist understands about their own work, because I feel like if you know that you are an artist and you're creating work, what we are looking for in the contemporary sense is that you have a project that you'd like to develop during this 3 months. 3 months is not enough time for me to, I guess, mentor you as an artist and help you find your visual language and help you find your conceptual framework. But when an artist comes to us and they already have that, and all they're trying to do is develop a project around a conceptual framework that they've already been working on, whether in tertiary or whether in their own private practice, it becomes somewhat easier for us to guide you along the lines of finding you the right mentors and finding you the correct, I guess, the correct manner in which your exhibition can manifest in the Everard Reed space. And also, I don't work alone. I also work with very professional artists like Teresa Kutala, Oloetu
Yes.
DeFos, as well as Blessing. So they also have an input, a big input in telling the artist, or showing the artist rather, how to conduct themselves as a professional artist. So that makes my job slightly easier. But what motivates me more than anything is that I know that the artists that I work with, whether it's a finalist or the winner, I know that I have, I guess, a little bit of a chapter in their story as they are on their way up to becoming very successful artists. You know, we've seen such great rewards from working within the BNAP organization, where a lot of our artists go on and to work with bigger galleries, to work with institutions, to do international work. And just to say that I was a part of that at an early stage, and building those relationships, I think it's very rewarding for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a great segue into, looking at, yourself, Khanyisa, who's the superstar really of, what I believe is a very contextual movement of art making in South Africa today. And just to give, the audience a quick synopsis, Khanyisa, as she'll speak, is really driven by not only academia, but also her spirituality within the artwork that she makes. She's Tsonga, and it's so rare, today when you look at the media and the social media tier of contemporary artwork, to really have an emotional attachment to the work. And so, Khanyisa.
Hi.
Awesome. And so, Khanyisa, just to begin with you, would you like to just give a quick summary of your process of, your artwork, your medium, and really the background to what has pushed you to, be the artist that was selected for the art prize today?
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Khanyisa, and initially, what helped me to find my voice today was how I wanted to understand my identity. I was struggling to understand myself in relation to my individuality. And so I started looking within and looking within my inner world. And it is within those worlds where I discovered that I am because other people have been. And those other people for me have been my mom, my grandmother, my sisters, my aunts, and all the important women in my family. So I have been understanding myself in relation to them. And that then allowed me to start looking at my maternal lineage and all the women in my family in order to start understanding and sort of like creating the conceptual framework for my work. I then got the opportunity to study at Wits University, pursuing a bachelor's degree in fine arts. And it was through that program that allowed me to then discover the mediums of photography, printmaking, and also just understanding material and textiles a little bit much more. That then allowed me to also just sort of like form this visual language that I have with me today. But the more important foundation of my work has always been my culture, because I couldn't speak about myself without starting from home and starting from the grassroots. And I felt that my culture was the most important vehicle that allowed me to just really articulate myself in relation to the world. So that's just where I am with my work.
Yeah, I think this is what I found so special, really, Khanyisa, when I was assessing one year as a choice of the Artists of Focus for Africa Collect, but also holistically as, what I believe what could be a leader, but also a legacy that you share with many other prolific artists. So when I think of you as an inheritance, really I look at artists such as Nsetsu Mahlangu, Nandipha Mtambo, and even Mary Sibande, who have really composed a lot of their works with spirituality, multimedia, and then modernity. If you look at, those artists and redefining this within your own language, what does the process look like when you are behind, a canvas, or as I know currently being in Limpopo, what really is the creative process of how you arrive at a body of work?
Okay. Starting, I want to first respond to the contemporary peers that have been mentioned. For me, I feel that Dr. Esther Mahlangu really laid the groundwork and the foundation that helped me to understand the necessity of creating work that prioritizes embodied practice. And I also appreciated how she emphasized the importance of cultural practice and being a cultural leader within your own culture. And then wanting to emphasize that the work that has been passed down must carry on. And then following her, I felt that Nandipha Mtambo, who's a personal favorite for me, combined the unimaginable. Her practice of that of a professional artist allowed her to think through the patriarchal structures within her culture using cowhide. And I felt that that was a different conversation that perhaps wouldn't really be possible within a patriarchal structure such as Zulu culture. And then with Zanele Moholi, I appreciate how she introduced the conversation of queerness into Black culture and also the rawness of Black bodies. So with all of these pioneers for me, including Mary Sibande, who then started helping us think through work in a sculptural, more monumental way, I felt that I had such a great foundation to understand my process. And so, in relation to all of that, this then allowed me to develop a relationship with my personal practice and also my commercial presentation. And then it allowed me to sort of create a work or visual language which is balanced and also intentionally preserved. How this informs my creative process is that when I create, I retreat deeply into my inner world and I go into a space that is sacred and strictly mine. And also, this interiority is something that I appreciate because it doesn't make me visible. But then when the work comes out, it gestures towards the spiritual and the ancestral and through the use of my garments. And that becomes the voice that speaks for me. What I also have enjoyed about my creative process is that when the public engages with it, they tend to see and engage with my visual language and my influences. And they tend to sort of understand the core of my spiritual practice and its emotional depth without me fully being present or to disclose what exactly is happening. And also, I appreciate having an inner world with my work because it then allows me to choose what to reveal and what to protect. But most of the time, having this boundary allows me to sustain both the integrity of my process and then also share the work without publicly compromising its meaning. So that has been my creative process and how I then strike a balance with how to preserve my inner world as well as to make and share work that has a visual language that speaks emotively to others.
Thank you so much. Firstly, what did I tell you guys? It's very crazy hearing from a person driven by academia with such a depth of education, one at her age, but also in retrospect of, the future of fine arts. And so, Khanyisa, another thing, and also at a broader level to you too, Palesa, photography is a very rare form of fine art these days, and in South Africa specifically as well. And so, Khanyisa, I would love to know how strong and why photography has been such an important medium for you to use for your artwork. And then on Palesa's side, what exactly was your assessment of looking at this work and how it defines emerging artists today in South Africa?
Okay. For me, I view photography as a very beautiful medium. I have a special relationship with photography because it is one of the mediums that I took time to develop and also to understand. It took me 2 years to working with photography, working through the challenges and the difficulty of how it tends to be before I could emerge with results. And in the same way, I believe that photography within the contemporary market has been met with some challenges. And I think perhaps the challenges for me is that it tends to be quite difficult to sell a photograph unless you are like an established artist. However, I still affirm and believe that the beauty of photography still remains with me. And this is because photography has the special quality of labor. The labor behind capturing someone's spirit or essence or isithunzi, as Santu Mufokeng once beautifully said, for me is very important. And I feel that it is important, photography is important because we are documenting the lives of people, and it means we are custodians who have been given the responsibility to remember. Taking a photo, engaging with a photo, and capturing someone's essence is the act of remembering. And so I feel that photography has the responsibility of remembrance, of honoring, and also it expands the constellation of memory. So I found that photography has been a medium that grounds me and humbles me back to the essence of my work. And I think photography still maintains a beautiful standing within the art world. I think people are looking perhaps for a fresher, new perspective.
Perfect. And I think, Palesa, on your side, as Khanyisa said, and as I also well know, although the rarity of photography remains, especially in South Africa, its distinct nature of, visual impact on a collector or a viewer. We look at photographs every day, whether it's Facebook, Instagram. So it does have the high level impact, of changing someone's perspective. So for you, was this something that you really looked at as a highlight of selecting Khanyisa to be, your artist in residency? And what's your perspective of its future rollout in the country as well?
I think, as Khanyisa said, the medium of photography in the past few years in South Africa, in the marketplace, has been quite slow. It hasn't been selling that much, but we felt that it's important to revive that. There's so many artist-led spaces that are starting up now in Johannesburg that supports photographers. And I think this is BNAP's first time having a winner that specializes in photography. And what we felt was quite interesting, even though we've had applicants in the past, like in 2024, the JSC acquisition winner was Lerato Ndili, and she's a photographer. What we felt was special about Khanyisa is how she's reinventing how we view photographs. She's not only just printing on fabric, but she's printing on a very cultural item, which is the shibelani. So there's more conversations to be had about how we archive our stories, our cultural history, and the richness of it, and how we present it to the world. There's also a very sensitive, I guess, sense of care when it comes to Khanyisa's work, because there is a boundary as far as how much she can share, and she's testing out these different boundaries through photography and having these very tough conversations about her matriarchal lineage and about her culture specifically, and the rites and rituals that are passed down orally in her culture as a Tsonga woman, or as a young woman in the Tsonga culture, that she's presenting through photography, which we have not seen before, and for the first time, we felt that, we've seen Tsonga artists in the industry, and most of them are males, but now it's a female, and the conversation shifts from what they have presented before into something new. And yeah, that's what we really liked about Khanyisa, and we felt that the way that she presents her photographs on the skirt, which is the Xolani, could actually introduce a new wave of photographers and how they, or rather how we experience photography as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really great and insightful for me too, actually, from both answers, particularly, leading into the next topic, which is, Khanyisa, when I'd spoken to you, and as I'd highlighted in the beginning, of the meeting, is that you really prioritize academia and education as a Starlit A student. And I look at Nadipa, who, has a PhD, and even Uzanele, who I met up in London, who really made sure that I not only have my own creative perspective on things, but I'm also educated in understanding. So for you, Khanyisa, and also for any artists that are currently, within the webinar, what really has education played as a role for your creative process? And also, what would you tell incoming new artists on the importance of academia within art and fine arts?
I'm very glad that you asked that question, because I'm very passionate about speaking on education. I will always say that education is a very empowering tool. Artists are born with the talent to create work, because I believe that we are vessels who are gifted with translations that are far beyond different than the daily normal. And so when you have that talent, it's then important to find a space where you can ground yourself and articulate the message that you have been given to speak. And so education was a platform that allowed me to really discover what I needed to speak about and what was more agentic in my work. And I had to go through a process of trial and error. And so I felt that it was more important for me to be grounded and stabilized in an artist-led space, as well as academic space, where I could find words to articulate beyond what I could express within my practice and the visual language of my work. And so being in an institution, particularly Wits University, and then acquiring my honors degree, of which I'm going to acquire next year upon graduation, I felt that it was a great space where that it allowed the process of trial and error and the process to fail safely. The institution is a safety net that allows you to think and really just go through different aspects and perspectives of your work and your process and your developing language until you find that niche. And when you find it, you just continue pushing through with the work, and then you are able to safely move yourself, or rather transition from the institution to foundations like BNAP, where you then present them with already a strong understanding of your own self and your work, but you're still seeking industry-led direction, which could take you to other greater heights. So for me, the message that I would give to artists who are in this space on panel is that they need to push through their inner voice and to stay with the ideas that they have. And I feel that it is super important to follow your intuition. Developing a unique artistic voice really requires you to be in tune with yourself and how you receive and give yourself to the process of making art. That itself is not easy. And there isn't any artwork that you will make if you don't know yourself and your story. And always the audience can see through that. The institution, or particularly academia, is a space where you learn to articulate your words. And there's a further responsibility not only to receive education, but to give back. And for me, giving back was more about returning to my culture and its archive, asking questions: who developed our archive? And if I were to contribute, what conversation would I be giving to the next generation of makers from my culture? And then just entering into institutions like BNAP is a space where you then soar on your wings and you just go and you work extremely hard and take your message to the world. And there are institutions like BNAP that will support you and see you through and through.
Thank you so much. I think from, I'm sure Palesa is quite proud, to really be listening to one of her stars elaborate and also so succinctly, provide insights into a broader perspective, of fine arts and the artist's mind. And now, Palesa, from, the agency, and I'll push us a little bit into the commercialization, which I know firsthand is very difficult, to crack in the country. And, also a lot of people are just uninformed. And so today for our curators, what would you say is a beginning point in terms of, the institution that they should, be joining and hopefully not be lost in kind of a capitalist perspective of just write out a brief, here are the artworks. What would you say they can trust? Is it galleries? Is it, foundations? How exactly does one, fit themselves in as a beginning and emerging curator in today's market?
That's an interesting question. I can't say one is more important than the other because, the commercial side of art has taught me that the bottom line is to sell art. Whether you are engaging in very conceptual narratives or you're just making art for art's sakes. The bottom line is that you want to sell art, whether you're selling to an institution or you're selling to a private collector, you want to sell art. And I think that with academia, it's important because it teaches you how to, I guess, look at art and how to create curatorial concepts around the artists that you'll be engaging with. So it's very hard for me to say, go the gallery route or begin at school. School is the best place to begin. But with me, I started in a gallery, before engaging in courses that taught me about curation a lot more. But to an upcoming curator, I think it's important right now where we are globally and economically, it is very important to establish good working relationships with artists. You need an artist to trust you with your artworks, as well as with their narrative that they're trying to present to the world. And the second most important thing is to build a client base, because you want people to support the artists that you work with. When artists come to me as a curator, they're not just looking for exposure. Exposure does not put food on the table. It does not pay bills. They want to sell art. And they come to me trusting that I do have a client base that will engage with their artists, with their artworks, and also me as a curator to, I guess, mentor them in some way or the other. But for a young upcoming curator, I think it's so important that you begin at school. If you have the chance to go to school, if you do not have the funds or the means to get through school, start by building relationships with artists and find a way to learn about curatorship, whether it's through a gallery or an internship with foundations such as BNAP, such as the Meta Foundation as well. There's so much you can learn about the administrative side or the business side of art that will help you along the way as you become a curator. I mean, I started my career in art in 2015, and I only started curating in 2019 because I had learned so much about the business of art from a variety of professionals, you know? So yeah, I don't want to excuse the other and say one is more important than the other. I think that art education should definitely change because a lot of artists come to BNAP and there's so much that they don't know about the business of running or running yourself as a professional artist. And as far as curators are concerned, there's so much that they don't understand about interacting with spaces or finding a space to host an exhibition or finding clients who will buy it. It's so much more than just hanging artworks. There's so much administrative work that goes behind what we do. So I don't want to dismiss one or the other, but I will say that education is your best bet as far as giving you that security that Khanyisa was talking about. But more importantly is the relationships you build as you grow in your career. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, guys, firstly, we have a few minutes left. For any questions, please do just pop them in the chat now as I just speak over it. And then hopefully if there's any attendee questions, we'll have Palesa or Khanyisa answer them. But, I think from my perspective, really what I've taken away from this is, firstly, commercializing does also align with the administrative points of selling. And, from both Palesa and Khanyisa's side, education seems to really be the underbelly of learnership before you do anything in any parts of agency within the art market. And I think coming from a more, commerce background, this is something that, even I overlooked as just a bystander at first of the art market. And before we get into any potential questions, Khanyisa, let's say I am a 19-year-old first year, at whether it's at Michaelis in Cape Town or here at Wits. What would you say, I must do if I hate the art history? All I want to do is be in the studio. How do I balance my passion and addressing my fundamental of, ensuring that I really equalize and balance art making and art learning?
Okay, that's a good question. For any 19-year-old either at Michaelis or Wits, UP or UJ or any art school for the matter, I do understand why they would tend to not enjoy the art history. I also went through the same similar phase in my formative years in my degree. However, as you then spend more time in studio and you start to listen to your voice and what's trying to come out, you start to engage more with your work and you seek to find more strategies and methodologies to strengthen the work, and an insatiable hunger just comes out of you where you just would look anywhere and any place and any time and at anything just to find any improvement to then apply back to your work. Eventually, words and speaking to people, and then reading books, and then your next thing you're watching videos and documentaries, and you're being introduced to thinkers like Fanon, Foucault, and many more. That's when you eventually end up in art history itself. I ended up in the very same thing that I avoided in my degree, because I felt that, I just wanted to just be in studio working and trying to make work that will just sell. But then I then just got led into the art history itself that I was avoiding. You need to think through other thinkers in relation to yourself, so that you understand yourself and see where the work takes you. So again, to the 19-year-old doing their first year or their second year in a fine arts degree, I would say try to find balance, try to find a way by which an easier way or a comfortable way to get into academia. It doesn't have to be threatening. It doesn't have to be intimidating. You can enter through a contemporary thinker, whether through music, through theater or film, who then is leading you into other big thinkers. I think art history is something you can't avoid, but just to find a comfortable way to get in will really greatly benefit your work.
Thank you so much, Khanyisa. Fortunately, we have one question which we'll close out with, and I think it's more directed to Palesa, which is from Abigail. How can we as artists, curators, and facilitators of access reimagine value in the art world beyond pricing so that ownership, storytelling, and sustainability are shared more equitably across the ecosystem? I think it's a perfect question because I think it summarizes a lot of the little addresses that we've made. But yes, please go ahead, Palesa. And if you can provide, yeah.
Yeah, I love this question. And to answer your question, Abigail, I'd say look at the BNAP Foundation. I think it's the perfect example of what you are looking for in terms of reimagining the value in the art world. This is an artist-led, artist-run organization, first of all, that services younger artists and keeps the door open for them to kind of explore different ways in which they can either present their works or through different spaces. And the value in that is that by collaborating not only with I guess corporate partners such as the JSE, we also collaborate with galleries. So galleries find new artists through us, but also the artists as well find themselves being a lot more, I'll say, attractive for galleries and for curators because they've been featured on this platform called BNAP Foundation. So we create this ecosystem of trust around the people that we work with and with other organizations that see the work that we do and decide that, you know what, we want to invest in this artist because BNAP Foundation has already started looking at them and working with them. So why not? Currently, 4 of our previous winners have been selected for the Tilga Award, which is amazing. We want stories like that. So the value for us is that we get to see an artist grow. It's not just about money. I think as far as money is concerned, we need to teach artists how to make money, but also it's important in their own careers. So I think as far as sustainability is concerned, Abigail, we've already started creating it because as we speak, 4 artists have been selected to win another art prize, which is international. There's artists that are already working in New York City and abroad as well, just by engaging with our platform. So for us, we have already created that ecosystem where corporate NPOs, as well as galleries and artists, find sustainability within their own practice and value in working with each other. So I think I've answered your question, and I hope you're happy with the answer.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. I think if there are any other questions, please do pop them in the chat. I'll give it about a minute or so. But, as we wait for any of those potentials, I'd like to just, really summarize the institutional representatives within this webinar, and also a very appreciative statement from my side is, as Africa Collect, we really share a similar sentiment with BNAP in putting the artist first beyond just the commercialization and also capitalist perspective of what we know is the natural environment that we all end up in. And so from an Africa Collect perspective, we really try and encourage people to take away that our philosophical approach, as much as our financial support, is we would like you to incrementally build towards what is your desires of engagement with the art market. And I think BNAP also share the exact same thing, is the selection of artists and the broader perspective of including all these various other partners. It is a very delicate and is a very sensitive process that ensures authenticity for who comes into this, very electric industry. So I see there are no questions other than what has been asked. Thank you all so much for joining. Khanyisa, you've been fantastic. Palesa, we really appreciate the time, guys. And thank you to all our attendees as well. But we can close us off, and we'll be sending an email out as well, just summarizing everything to everyone attending. I really appreciate it, guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Xolani, and all the best.
All the best, guys. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Bye.